Yeah, we're live. Just setting the lighting, setting the mood, as it were. I know I'm a little late. It's 7:44, but I just got back from a trip to Southern California. We went down for a relative was actually graduating from UCLA. So congratulations, Justin. That is awesome. Way to go. Engineering degree, which is very, very cool. And while I was down there, I received a video from the winner of the Nova's Arc from the Project Nova, and it's it's Mickey Smoke. I did a small screenshot of the beginning of this video because there's a lot more than this, obviously. And what I want to do is I'd actually like to take time and go down and see him and do a walk around and have him explain in his own world. Actually, so I think somebody broke into the place and was trying to steal the Nova and some other things that were there. So, but I'll let him if he wants to. I'll let him explain that in his own words. But I do want to go down there and shoot some more video of the Nova. We can reveal the kind of engine that's in it, and then we have obviously plenty of smoke is being made. So everything worked out. And honestly, I can't thank you guys enough because, and him specifically because, but for everybody that was involved in this, for doing the giveaway and the support for the channel and all that stuff. Because when we do stuff like this and something cool like this happens, obviously it makes us want to do me and the people that are helping out, because I have other people obviously that have supplied things and stuff and helped out, but it makes me want to do more of that stuff, and just seeing him doing that also gives all of us motivation to get stuff done. As a matter of fact, now I want to go down and take pieces off of the Omni and and do some painting on it, because I know that I can get that stuff done. And then when I go down to Southern California, I can finish taking apart the 2.5 and get that thing built up, and get the 2.2 is now ready to be reassembled. And so I can get that done. It just makes you want to get stuff done, which is the hard thing for a lot of these projects, to actually get things done. I have also run across a Pontiac that I might be able to run as a favor for somebody and put up on the dyno and do a story on, or do a video on, which will be cool. And I have my fingers crossed, and hopefully all of that's good. And then there'll be a lot of other Pontiac stuff that might be for sale. They've got a really cool an M20 transmission and linkage and that stuff. And then there's a block and heads and some other things that are there that they might be just wanting to get rid of. And it's for a really good cause, and we'll do a video on that and explain all that stuff that's going on and why we're going about that. But that will be another video for another day. Happy to see everybody. Welcome. I was excited about seeing the video because, after just seeing it sit for so long and then seeing it like come alive, and it's really kind of got a very cool motor in it. It's definitely something unique. And so it will be very cool to reveal all that stuff. But just to see it, like when he sent me the driving video, very cool to see it driving around, and just to go from being that to what it is now is a great thing. And the cool thing is, as David Freiberger has always said, the best thing you can do is don't make it perfect, just make it run. Just get it on there, get a motor in there, get something in there. Just your first goal should be, I'm going to make it run. If you're going to drive it around, you also need at least brakes. And then if there's anything else that's woefully inadequate and making it unsafe to drive, tie rods that are hanging off or whatever the things are, you're obviously going to have to address that. But get it running so that it will go out and run and drive around. And then the thing that does is it's a good starting point, but it allows you to back the car in and out and move it, which is very important. But it also gives you motivation knowing that the thing is running. If you have a running vehicle, then you can think, oh yeah, what I really want to do to make this safe is I really need to upgrade the brakes. So I'm going to upgrade the brakes. Now I'm going to go down the rabbit hole on what all the brakes are that fit this, that I can go get cheaply at the wrecking yard, because let's face it, that's how most of us are going to do it. The other thing is there's lots of relatively inexpensive new stuff also available on eBay and various places. So you can do that. And the nice thing about this one in particular, 72 Nova, there's lots of different things available for that you can put on there to upgrade, so you make it safe. But if it's running and driving around, then you can do the other things that you want to do and not things that you have to do. And you know that they're on that car. There's going to be there's a fair list of things that had to be done, and he's already done the biggest thing is that, and that is getting an engine in that is capable of turning the tires, which is what we all want. So he's got that part of it done. And now when I go down south to my storage and stuff, I'm going to pick up a bunch of stuff for him, a bunch of suspension parts, stuff that are going to make it better. And I probably will work with him on other things. So it'd be cool. It will be a cool deal. But I'm excited about doing some more testing. I need to get some testing done on the 360 Magnum. We need to at least get the UT Awesome camshaft in that. I need to get springs for it. And then I'm going to also need to flip the pistons in that so that they're in the right cylinders and so that the offset is aimed in the right direction, because we saw from the fabulous piston flip video that Engine Masters did on my motor that it didn't do any power. So I'm going to put them back where they belong, and I probably will put new bearings in it because the bearings look like they were kind of worn, and I'll just throw some bearings in. I'm going to reuse the rings. When we take it apart, I'm going to put ring gap in it just so that at very least I can put that camshaft in. We can compare that versus the comp cam that was in it and the stock cam, and then we can run it with the UT Awesome intake manifold, and I can get that stuff back to him. So, and thank you very much for, I know that it's taken a while, but we'll get the testing done and get it, and then we can run it with a turbo. And if people obviously want to see the Kager with boost, we know it's going to work with all the other stuff too. But I have that. I also want to do, I have some max speeding turbos that I'm going to run. I've got some 3076s and some 3582s, and I also have a twin turbo set up from the guys at Faller Speed. I think I'm pronouncing that right. He sent some exhaust manifolds, which will be cool. And then all I really need to do for my end is make elbows, same kind of elbows that we have on everything else. And although he may have also sent some of those, I'll have to see how that configures. But what I want to do is run twins. So I want to run 2 of the 3582s and 2 of the 3076s, and not so much to make a lot of power, but I'm more interested really in what the response rate change is going to be for those. We also need to run the long, skinny chili bomb intercooler. We need to test that. So there'll be a lot of things that I can test. The one other thing that I would really like to test, and I might do it on an LS, and I want to test, and I've wanted to do this for a long time, and I remember talking to Brule about this many times, and that's that we want to run carb spacer tests, which I just ran a bunch of them on the LS that I have with the Brian Tooley Truck Norris cam and the Sloppy Stage 2 cam. But I want to run a bunch of those tests, and I want to run a couple of different intake manifolds, but I want to do it carbureted, and then I also want to do it with port injection, not with throttle body injection, because that should actually work. That well, now that I think about it, throttle body injection might be cool to run it with too, because what I want to see, the reason that I want to run it with a carburetor and with port injection is because I want to demonstrate to people, and find out for myself whether or not it's a simple change in plenum volume that's doing something, or is it the signal to the carburetor. We could also do that thinking about it with throttle body injection, because the throttle body injection, the signal to the throttle body is not going to dictate the fuel flow in any kind of fuel injection, whether it's port injection or throttle body injection. We dictate the fuel flow. We dictate when and where it happens. We tell it what's going to happen. With a carburetor, it's more of asking it. But if we can dictate the fuel flow, we don't have to worry about the signal change from the spacer. And I think that does affect what's happening with the carburetor. So, and obviously we have to go in and with the carburetor, when we put it's less important when we run a single plane intake manifold than we put an open spacer on there. But if we run a dual plane and put an open spacer on there, there's definitely going to be a change in jetting and stuff that becomes necessary to make the air fuel correct. So I want to play with that a little bit, and I want to play with it both with a fuel injected and a carbureted version, just so we can eliminate one of the variables when we're asking that question. Well, which is it? Is it the change in plenum volume? Is it just the signal? Is it a combination of both? So that's something that I want to test that I've never actually tested with both of those, with fuel injection and with carburation. So that'll be an interesting deal. And obviously I have a whole list of other things that we want to test with the 2.2. We want to get that running and make it work. And then there's a whole string of tests of, and then also now I have waiting in the wings, hopefully a 280Z motor, a turbo motor that I can run and do. It'd be a similar sequence with that as it is with the 2.2 turbo Chrysler. 2.2 turbo Chrysler has one thing that the Z motor doesn't have, and that's that it's a draw-through setup. It's a draw-through the turbo. The throttle body's mounted in front of the turbo. On the Z, that's not the case. But everything else would be the same. It's non-intercooled. We'd want to run an intercooler. We'd want to run E85. We want to run the stock turbo and turn that up. We'd want to run naturally bigger injectors and then the intercooler and maybe a cam. And you could go. The sky's really the limit for that kind of stuff. You could do ported heads and all kinds of stuff, and make lots and lots of power and see what happens. But really, what I want to do, I just want to show people what things do, and the same thing that we do. Hey, if we go up in NA power, we make more NA power, then we can make more boosted power, and that's really what you want, especially on a motor that's underachieving. In the case of that L28ET, it's underachieving in terms of its naturally aspirated power out, certainly in stock trim. It is very low compression, and it's fairly mild cam timing. It's not, it's only making 100 and the NA one with higher compression is making 145 horsepower at 2.8 liter. So it's not, it's 50 horsepower per liter, which is not tremendous from a naturally aspirated standpoint. So there are ways that guys make more than that. The stroker thing is always done, a ported head, bigger cam, side drafts, all that stuff is possible. So, and I've seen some of these versions where they make, you can pick your number depending on what internet thing you believe, anywhere from 200 to 300 or more horsepower, whatever NA, and then that would be a good start. And then you add boost to that. But all the really high horsepower stuff is really high compression, high RPM, lots of camshaft. And then there are guys out there talking about 1,000+ horsepower turbo versions of these, maybe in professional racing series or things like that. But we're not looking at doing that. I actually would like to get something that would go in an early 240Z that could be driven around, something at the 350 to 400 horsepower flywheel number. I think would be realistic for that, and that should be a realistic amount of boost and something that you could drive around and not have. It wouldn't have a really wild cam timing in it. It probably wouldn't need any sort of ported head, but that's another test that's waiting in the wings. I have the 4200, the Atlas motor that needs to go back together. Maybe I'll call Calvin and see if he wants to help me with that. We still have the Buick 455. There's lots of stuff. So I got a lot of things going on. These last few weeks have been very chaotic. So now it's time to get back to work and get some actual stuff done and get some new videos out. So it'll be cool. So let's see what you guys got going on. I'm gonna try to I'm working on that video, and I'm working on the other video that I'm working on that should be up tomorrow. Let's see, there's the airflow research cams. Yeah, I think the cams are next. So I've got nitrous on a 383. I think I've already done the camshafts. I'm not sure. So let's see. One of those, it's either the 383 with nitrous, the LS, or the airflow research cams. I can't remember which one we did. I've been away for a little while. So let's see what you get. The thumbnail is awesome. I know, it's pretty cool. And that's, trust me, that's the beginning of the burnout. The thumbnail is not what you're going to see. It's going to be a lot more than that. So it'll be cool. Oh, you found the like button. Good. Quadrajet on a 2.2. I would kind of like to do a roots blower on the 292 6-cylinder. The other thing I want to do is I want to do the really long cross ram on a big black Dodge. Because I want to make a copy of the Sonic Ram thing. Yes, you guys will get to see the Nova burnout video. That's what I said. I'm working on that. Amanda, I have not I haven't heard from Turbo Monza. I need to get a hold of them, find out what's going on with the 3800 hits, because I want to get that done also. LS4W body. Yep, I like those. Piston flip. We already did the piston flip. We already did that test. It showed 0 power, down to the decimal point power change. It showed nothing. I've done lots of LS4 front wheel drive stuff. Lots and lots and lots of that. The 3800, all the testing for the 3800 is basically for that. Would you recommend a Truck Norris cam or BTR turbo cam for a 5.3 single turbo? I usually recommend the smaller of those camshafts, and especially it would be helpful at fishing if you could tell me what turbo you're running and what kind of power you want. If it's less than 1,000 horsepower, pick the smallest cam that you have. Oh, we do need to do a poll here. Okay. Will the Nova brake during the Here's a good question. Will the Nova brake the Saginaw 3-speed trans during the epic burnout video? So we'll ask our community. That's going to be our poll for tonight. Has 672 on a 671 on a 4.3 there. You have to beef up the half shafts on those early Z's. You put a 468. Yeah, a big block in a Z is definitely going to hurt the half shafts. Yeah, roots blower on the 292. I'd like to put one of the M90s from the 3800 on there. I think that would be like a really good combination. Single GT45 on a stock bottom end 5.3, looking to get in the 750 range. It's not going to do 750 wheel. It'll do 750 flywheel, but the Truck Norris cam would work good. The Nova needs a Lincoln locker, so it's not a one-tire fryer. It actually does have a posi in it. It doesn't look like it in the video, but it does. Saginaw is pretty weak. I've got one in my 74, but it's a 4-speed. What motor did he put in it? That is going to be revealed during the burnout video, during the Nova burnout video. Yeah, fishing. You'll be happy with a smaller Truck Norris cam than you will with one of the stage 1 blower or NA or nitrous or turbo cams. You don't need that kind of camshaft, that big of a camshaft for what you're doing. And you can get all the power out of that blower with that smaller camshaft. And then you get better boost response, like I have the video that I have up. I have a 390 Ford. I haven't heard of an FE in a 280. That's good. I don't know if they can break the 3-speed, but I hope they can try. Inline 6-cylinder with a turbo. I have run a turbo on the 292 already, and on the 4200. Not on the slant 6 yet, though. Skyler, so you have an 83 factory turbo L28 in your other Z. What year is the other Z? That's what I want to put. I have a 71 240. And so I don't, I'm not going to drag race it. So I just ordered my Holly Sniper cross ramp for my 5.3, the VTR Stage 2 for twin 3582s for 65 Cadillac convertible. That would be good. I'm assuming that you're wanting to make all of what those 38 or 3582s do. So far, the half shafts have survived for years and lots of burnouts. What half shafts that you put in there, Skyler? You gain much at all boring a 6-liter 30 over a 706 heads NA, no stroker? You're not going to gain a lot because it's only 5 cc's or 5 cubic inches, so it's not a lot. So if you were making 1.5 horsepower per cubic inch, you'd make an extra 7.5 horsepower. An FE and a 280Z. The thing I'd be worried about with an FE is, especially if it's an all iron one, is they're not light. Especially if you have an iron intake on an FE, they're ridiculously heavy. But only because they're part of the cylinder head also. But if it's an aluminum headed, aluminum intake FE, then that would be cool. Intake fuel rails and 202 millimeter throttle bodies for 1600. Okay, so you're trying to do 1600. Where's KD? 3582s won't go to 1600 horsepower. 3582s are going to be more like 1100. The L67 in a Z. I think Calvin just put a 4200 in their stretched Bonneville Z that he's doing. Piston and rods recommended for 5.3. The JE has stuff. Wiseco has stuff. Scat has stuff. I think that they sell. The guys from Summit have their Pro LS stuff, and that works good. The Z's have some understeer. I've seen some Saginals break the case during reverse burnout. I don't think I would be big on doing a reverse burnout. Yeah, the cast iron FE intakes are not fun. They're especially not fun to be reaching over the fender well to put them on. Even an aluminum one is not fun, but the cast iron ones are ridiculous. So normally what we do is we take the engine hoist and put the carb plate on it to set it in place. An iron FE is lighter than an iron big block. Yeah, an iron big block would not be fun either. Not in a 240Z. And if you start getting up where you're having big motors and they're making lots of torque, I'd be worried about the rigidity of that chassis too. I just think it would twist that chassis. An Oldsmobile 350 intake. I don't ever remember working on. I don't think I've actually worked on an Oldsmobile, not on the engine dyno, and also not on a chassis dyno. I've seen some in boats and stuff, but I've never taken a wrench to them. So let's see how our poll is doing. Will the Nova break the transmission during the epic burnout? So we got 63% saying no, that it won't. So it will survive. So let's keep our fingers crossed. When you put aluminum intake on, you go faster just from the weight reduction of an S. Yeah, that's the way it is with all the things. That's one of the pros, or one of the things that they were, when they were promoting all of the aluminum heads way back in the 5-liter days, is that even on a 5-liter, which is fairly thin wall casting, including the heads, they're fairly light for iron heads. But you still, putting aluminum heads on gets rid of a bunch of weight, and it gets rid of a bunch of weight that's fairly high. So it's really, it's really quite a bit better for a guy doing road racing, which is what I was kind of into. So you get less weight, that's up high, which is, you don't want your weight there anyway. And then also you get the extra power, because almost any aluminum head was a fairly sizable upgrade from a factory iron E7TE head. The Oldsmobile small block intake is about the size of a big block Chevy. Yeah, like I said, I've seen the motors, but and we have some. And when I say we, I mean Westech has some. I think that they have Oldsmobile aluminum aftermarket intakes, probably Edelbrock's or something. I think that they have one or two of those there, but I've never reached in to grab it and put it on anything. I have an El Camino with a 350, a Muncie 4-speed. It always bucks around while decelerating gear. Would anything cause that besides too much timing? Well, is it like parts movements, like U-joint or drive shaft or rear end, or is it the engine doing that? And I don't know what you mean by bucks around. If it's making noise, it shouldn't, the timing shouldn't hurt during decel. When you notice the timing the most is if it's under acceleration and you're detonating, or when you go to turn the motor off and it wants to keep going. That usually means that you have too much static timing. What engine setup is in the Nova? Marty, we're going to reveal that when we do the Nova video. Fuel starvation from bucking, that's a possibility. It could be lean. I don't know what you mean by bucking, but if it's backfiring, that kind of stuff, that could be it. So Dean, you're on a break. That's good. You got to take a break every once in a while. I've heard it called trailer hitching. That's exactly how it feels. Again, you got to tell me what it's doing. Is it misfiring? Is it surging, like running high and then running low? Is it backfiring? What is it doing? I did also, here's another announcement. I did get a photo from my friend Mark Sanchez, as you know, from Advanced Engineering West and the Kaufman and all the 5-liter Ford guide days. I got a photo from him of him pulling out the whole subframe basically out of a Cadillac with the North Star, and he's replacing it all because he had problems with the transmission. So he just thought he went and got a whole new one, a new wrecking yard one, and dropped the whole subframe, dropped the subframe out and put a whole new one in. So he has a running North Star motor sitting there. And he said, yes, Richard, by all means, you can have it, you can run it, whatever. Okay, just got an update on the Pontiac. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's see. If it's a 3-speed trans, it is. It's the one that came. The 3-speed trans that's in the Nova is the one that came with the 250, 1-barrel carburetor inline 6-cylinder, the original motor that came in there. Let's see. A big car won't respond well to a big cam small motor. How does an engine dyno know how much to load the motor? Well, we load it at wide open throttle. So how much ever power it makes at wide open throttle, and the motor, the dyno, we program in the RPM that we want to run at, from 3,000 to 6,000, let's say, and the dyno says, okay, we're gonna start the load at 3,000, and then we're gonna let it go up to 6,000, and then we're gonna apply more brake to it. So it applies load. We go to wide open throttle. The dyno applies load until the motor is at 3,000 RPM, and then releases some of that load at a fixed rate, normally 300 RPM per second, and then allows the RPM to go up at a rate of 300 RPM a second till we get to whatever our highest setting is. 270 cam and 273 gears. If that's the surging one that we're talking about, the cam is not going to be great with a 273 gear. You're going to be a really low RPM if you're cruising. Do you have an opinion on LS Fox body marriages? Seems like a successful pairing. The guys are putting LSs in everything, so it works very well. The motor's inexpensive to get from a wrecking yard. We know it can make lots of power. The LS motor can make more power than a 5-liter Ford can, and can do it for less money. So it's a good combination. If you're a true blue Ford purist and want to do nothing with 5 liters, you can make lots of power with that, or put a 351. You can make lots of power with that. A 460, a Coyote mod motor, whatever you want to put in there. If you want to stay Ford, stay Ford. If you're not that guy, and there's no one absolute answer, that's not the best guy. There's also lots and lots of guys racing Fox chassis cars, or SM95s or whatever, because there's lots and lots of parts for them. They're inexpensive, and there's just dead simple recipes to make them hook up and go fast. So you just put the motor in, do the things to the chassis, and all of a sudden you go out and you look like a hero. You can go really fast. And that's why guys are doing it. So there's guys that do that. And there's guys that only want to stay one way, and guys that want to stay the other way. And quite frankly, they all work. Todd's in the house. Put head studs in the North Star and a couple of turbos. We will run, if I put it on the dyno, it does run. It works well. We'll definitely run boost on it. What would be a good turbo combination for an early Gen 4 big block 454? Would a 2-bolt main be fine? Yeah, take a look at the stuff that we did on the junkyard big block stuff. I normally pick a Gen 6 or a Gen 5 motor because they are 4-bolt. But quite honestly, I don't think that the block and the 2-bolt attachment for the mains is really going to be the limiting factor. I don't know how much power you're trying to make, but adding a turbo to a big block and you want to be 600, 700, 800 horsepower, whatever, the 2-bolt main will work for that. You're going to break a rod or a piston, assuming that the tune doesn't break it, because it's really easy for that to happen. The tune can break even a 4-bolt motor and a steel crank and a forged rod and a forged piston motor. So the tune's not right. You can break all of that stuff very easily. That's not going to be the limiting factor. If you have a stock thing and you put ring gap in it, then the piston or rod are likely going to be the weak point, probably not the mains. Estimate the power on a 300 horsepower 93 LT1 with GT35s, please. So your NA motor makes 300 horsepower. If that's the case and it makes 300 horsepower, then it will make 600 at 14.7 pounds of boost. Or not at will, it can. GT35s, if you turn them all the way up, I wouldn't start at one making 300 horsepower if you're going to turn them all the way up. I would put a camshaft and things in it. But if the twin GT35s would probably support 1,000, 3582s would probably support 1,000 to 1,100. Randy, happy to help. Does ARP make specific studs for the North Star? Do they offer those? I've never looked that up to see if that's a thing. If they offer a stud kit for the North Star. Ice cream cake. Ooh, I like ice cream cake, especially if it's pralines and cream. We just had some of that the other day. I didn't make all the cars just for people to put Chevy engines in them. The LS stuff is really popular, and it's popular in everything, not just the Mustang. No on anchovies on pizza. Not anchovies on anything. Maybe on Caesar dressing for salad, but that would be it. Yeah, Todd, I know what it is. I got that. But I also do like pralines and cream. Ice cream cake. Can't go wrong with the Chevy engine. Again, it doesn't matter. You can make lots of power with a Ford. We've done big bang 351 Windsors. You can make lots of power. The motor doesn't matter. If you have a motor that has good cylinder heads and the right camshaft and a good intake manifold, it's going to make power. That's what they do. Have you ever had to do a crankshaft sensor relearn? No, I've never had to do that. We've replaced sensors in our series of trying to figure out what was wrong and why the motor wouldn't start. We've done that, but I've never had to do a relearn because I don't ever use the factory ECU to do that. Foreign automobiles. Did you see the everybody say hi to Foreign Automobiles? That's who won the Nova, and that's who sent me the video. But and I haven't talked about what engine is in there or anything like that. All I did was show a photo of a screenshot from the video that you sent me, and it's an early screenshot, so it doesn't show all of it. So what I want to do is come up and do a quick visit and do a video of the thing, and I can talk to you, and we can do a walk around of the thing. We can do an open hood engine reveal on the video, and we can use the smoky burnout shot and all that. All that's good. So, and then the poll for tonight was, will the Nova break the Saginaw 3-speed trans during the epic burnout video? And so far, 63% are saying no. Pineapple. I'm not a pineapple on. I love pineapple. And pineapple on, on everything else, on the sidecar, on my drink, whatever. And my son loves pineapple on pizza, but that's not for me though. North Star Performance makes drill and tap headset kit. Yeah, I'm not too interested in doing that. The North Star, if I run it, which I want to, and since his is hooked to an automatic trans, so I need to figure out a way to run a manual flywheel on it. So that'll be hurdle number one. The bolting it to the dyno will be easy. We already have a bell housing. I think that metric bell housing, I think somebody said that the metric bell housing that attaches to the 3.8 liter will work on that motor. So I'd need either a flywheel, or I've also on other applications figured out a way to bolt the drive plate up to the flex plate. So I can do that also. We've done that on modular Fords and stuff. So I can do that if there's not a flywheel available for that North Star. Were they available with manual trans? Maybe in the Shelby stuff, but did they ever have those as manual trans in any of the regular factory production vehicles? So if they were, somebody let me know, and put a flywheel on there, the drive plate. We'll probably have to put bigger injectors in it, but that shouldn't be too hard. And then I'd like to run it NA and do a few tests. Maybe we'll run nitrous on it. We'll run boost on it. I don't want to run a lot of boost on it. And honestly, I don't want to take it apart, and I don't want to put head studs and all that stuff on it. I would just like to put it on the dyno and run it with 7 pounds or something and see what happens. Chris, on your LC9, you don't need to port and polish the heads. You're not putting enough camshaft in it where that's going to be a really valuable thing. It's an LC9 though, but that's a good motor. And the heads that you already have an LC9 should have 243 or 799 heads on it. So you've already got more head flow than the 706 or 862 stuff. Richard, I just built an LQ4 stroker running like Terminator. When I go full throttle, it cuts out, and then diesels. What could it be? It's obviously got to be something going on with the tuning. I would have to look at it to see. And I don't run Terminator X, although I think that the programming is the same as the HP and the Dominator that we use a lot. You have to figure it out. You need to look and see, data log it, and see what's happening to the timing. If you have that, you have the ability to data log it and see what's happening with the timing. Maybe you have too much in, maybe you have the wrong map sensor in there, maybe the fueling is wrong. But if you data log it, you'll be able to see, it will tell you, oh, look, we've gone to 15-to-1 air fuel, or we've gone to 40 or 50 degrees of timing, or 0 degrees of timing, whatever is causing the problem. Still wondering why I didn't get the Nova. Well, because you didn't win it. We did because we did a random drawing and your name didn't come up. That should be pretty easy to understand. Richard, we were talking the other day on your live feed. I got twin GT35s on a 6-liter that I blew up. Only had 23 thousandths ring gap in it. The new 6-liter puts 25 ring gap. Should I add more? If you're going to run lots of boost, I always put it at 28 or so. 25, I think you could get away with stuff. Are you sure that you blew it up because of ring gap and it was not tune or charge temperature or other things that can have that problem. But if we run 28 to 30 thousandths, on some of the big bang motors, we ran even more than that. We know that we're never going to pinch a ring on it. If it's going to blow up, it's going to blow up because we blew up something else, and it's not going to be that. If you try to run low boost on a regular carburetor, yes, we have. If you take a look at the 292 turbo, not only did we run low boost on the conventional carburetor, which was a 5512, the XP version of that 5512 two-barrel short track kind of carburetor, but we also ran it with E85. So I just jetted the heck out of it, and we ran it on E85. I don't know that it worked on the dyno at wide open throttle. I don't know that that's going to work to drive around, though. The Aurora is the same platform, smaller displacement. They should have just made the quad 8 instead of the Northstar. I do really like the quad 4. Did the Northstar engines require drill a pilot bearing hole for manual transmission converters? I don't know. We don't really care about that. We wouldn't do that. We have an input shaft that doesn't have a pilot bearing locator deal. Richard, say Julia, shout out Todd. Here's a shout out to Julia. What's up, Julia? Let's see. Also thinking of doing some long tube headers while I'm at it. Long tube headers are a good idea for that 5.3. That's what this is about. Take a look at the videos I have. I have videos up on doing stock exhaust manifolds versus shorties versus long tubes on LSs, both with a stock cam and with aftermarket cams, and you can kind of see whether or not you think it'll be worth it. Richard, I got my air fuel figured out, changed to SCT BA5000 sensor. Okay, I'm not familiar with what that is, but that's great. Able to tune better, although I'm still getting supercharger surge. Are you getting, do you have a blow-off valve on that, Yuri? You might be getting surge from that, or is it you just getting surge at idle? Some guys use Northstar swaps, LS4 boost on manual Fieros. So what flywheel are they using for that? Maybe I'll have to take a look and see. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. I want to see a ring gap test, make a couple of pulls, a standard gap, and then grind them to 1/8 and see what it does. So 1/8? You want to put 125 thousandths? Isn't that what 1/8 is? That would be a lot, right? Do you reuse stock LS rod, main, and head bolts? I don't. I have reused stock head bolts on NA motors. I haven't reused those on boosted ones that I can remember. I may have in a pinch. Not something that I would put in a car. I wouldn't do that. The rod and main bolts I reuse all the time, and I wouldn't hesitate to put those in a car. And I redo the factory torque specs on the rod and main bolts, so it's an angle torque. Marty, you blew it up because it had 35 degrees of initial timing and pulled 2 degrees per pound to boost. Had 20 degrees on 6 pounds, and it was a little lean. 20 degrees of timing on 6 pounds doesn't seem like a lot. Did it have, unless that's pump gas and it's not an intercooled? You have a bypass valve. Okay, long tube headers are always my first mod. It's rated 10 psi and everything. I'm still use an actual. So you don't have a. Do you have a blow-off valve or not have a blow-off valve? Foreign, what's up? You think everyone wants to see recently in-depth talk through the Nova build? Lots happened in that first month. I've actually got close to 100 miles on it since I got it running. I do want it. I want to do that, and I'm sure that they want to see it too. Did the Cadillac XLR have a manual trans option, or were they automatics? I don't know. Did they have 6 speeds in any of those? I was silly enough to break a bunch of ringlands on a number of inline 6-cylinder Fords, but I didn't run a 231 Buick enough to break more than head gaskets. Chris, that truck intake, the NBS intake manifold, the truck intake manifold, or the Trailblazer SS kind of thing, all those work really well. Has an air-to-air intercooler on, and you're on pump gas. So 20 degrees on pump gas might be a lot, especially that was a turbo too, right? So if it has that boost at low RPM, I don't know what your timing is down low. I'm hoping it's less than that. That's something I wanted to ask. What is a single GT45 with 10 to 12 pounds of boost? What does it say? Well, first of all, I need to know if you're running a GT45 and you're running 12 pounds of boost, what are you running that on? Like how much NA power are you running that on? Because it might be that 12 pounds of boost puts you to the limit of the turbo. So you need to decide that. And are you running it on pump gas? Or are you running it on E85? I'm hoping, fingers crossed. Do you have any videos on exhaust cutouts? No, I've never done an exhaust cutout. We've done exhaust sizes, and an exhaust cutout can do the same thing. It can help it flow more. No negative, no BOV. It's what Vark considers a bypass valve. Is it the little plastic one? That is a bypass valve. It's because if it's a mass air car, they just route it back in after the mass air meter, so that it already corrected for that signal. It already measured that airflow. So they just reroute it. But that is a blow-off valve. The blow-off valve, a lot of people think that it just blows off the atmosphere, but it can blow off back into the mass air meter. They're calling them the same thing. So as long as it has that, and that's opening while the thing is under cruise, under vacuum, and it's opening, and it's not, and it's recirculating, and because otherwise what's happening is you're getting boost in there, and the throttle blade is not open very much, and so a lot of that will revert backwards. And when it reverts backwards, the problem is that if the mass air sees that, it gets all wonky. Yeah, it is late for tonight. The live stream is late tonight. I just got a late start because we just got back. What's a good number to shoot for an air fuel? If it's a boosted application, you need to be like 11 to 11 and a half. Do you remember making a compound turbo LS? Did you have a pressurized blow-off valve? We did. I'd have to go back and look, but I think that we did have a blow-off valve on it. And also for what I would do for driving something a long time out on the street is different than what I've run boosted combinations with no blow-off valve, and it surges. You can hear it when you decel because you're closing the throttle blade and you're getting pressure waves hit that and reverting backwards, and then trying to stop the spinning impeller, which is not a good idea. And it will take that for a while, but the more that you do it on the street, it's going to be really bad for it. So on the street where you're doing that all the time, I would definitely have a blow-off valve or a bypass valve, depending on whether you got a mass air meter or not. I would definitely have that. We can get away with stuff on the engine dyno that I wouldn't be running for a long period of time. Chris, I don't know about shops in Vegas. Building a 302 from our 87 T-Bird. There should be a lot of 5-liter information there. There's definitely a lot of testing on, no shortage of 5-liter testing. As a matter of fact, I got to get back and do more on I got to finish up the Summit Racing cams. Sleeper, you need to ask your question differently on your sniper question. So we're at 65% on our poll and 35% saying yes, that we are gonna, he is gonna damage the trans, and 65% saying no. I was always jealous of the T-Birds. I remember Dennis Hilliard brought one out from Central Coast Mustang because I was running a Silver State a bunch in my Mustang, and he brought out a T-Bird. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh man, that thing's longer. It's more aerodynamic. That's way better for this combination. Braden, I don't think we're going to get to the 100 poll. I think if you look closely at the photo, you might not be able to tell. Those are different wheels on there too. Did you get any teasing for the 514 big block from Ford Racing slip up in your last video? I don't know what is that. You run into trouble on the 3-speed when you shift it. Yeah, so maybe if he keeps it in one gear or something, I don't know. I'll have to see. That's when it breaks. And I don't know I don't think he's still, I have to look and see. I didn't look closely at the video. I don't know if he still has the same tires on there or not. Are you enjoying the content? I'm not going to get 100% on that. Even if it's something, you know, that seems fairly obvious, then it's still, there's always going to be somebody that's going to do it just so that they could be the 1% guy or whatever. I was wondering how to counter a sudden change that happens with a cutout. So are you talking about, Russell, are you talking about do you have a boost cut on it, or an ignition cut, or a fuel cut? Sometimes I like to disagree, so we have a discussion. I don't really think that's necessary to have a discussion, but if that's your thing, that's your thing. Could the sniper be too much CFM for the 302? Should I just sell it and get a car, building an autocross track car for Central California? You won't ever have too much CFM for the 302, because as a throttle body, it doesn't have to worry about that, because you're not getting the signal to draw the fuel in on a throttle body injection. You're just getting air in. So now the air speed is not going to be dictated by the throttle opening, and therefore the fueling, the atomization stuff, that's not going to happen. I think you have less to worry about in that than you would on a big carburetor. Oh, Foreign's stepping up. He says he will confirm it does burn out in all 3 gears. Exhaust dump cutout. So we're going to go ahead and close our poll. 65% saying no, the trans will not break, and 35% saying yes. So we'll end that. Where you put the cutouts matter. How far from the header? Yeah, if it's spinning in 3 gears, that's obviously doing pretty well. It's making some power, right? I like how when we do the poll, we have more votes than we have people here, which is good. People are multiple voting. I know I'm excited about. I need to. When I'm away from the dyno for too long, I can't wait to get back down, especially run some boosted stuff, and even more run like new boosted stuff. I mean, it's great to go down there and like put that L33 up and put my turbo set up the way that I always run it on there and put it up there and run it, and that's always fun. It's always good to do turbo stuff, but it's even better to put something new on there. And although it takes more time for the setup and stuff, it's still, when you do something new and you're done with it, and it runs and it works, hopefully, it's always exciting. I know I only have 95 thumbs up right now. What's going on? And the RB, I need to get the RB running. So somebody's saying something about the 514. Did I say it was a 514 big block? Oh, okay. That sort of thing happens. That's pretty normal. Richard will experience all that power when he finally gets to drive. That'll be fun. Obviously, if it spins the tires like that, it's got to be fun to drive. I quite honestly, just putting it in gear and having it take off and roll down the street is like, that's such a giant win. Father. Like a regular father, but just much more mighty. I'm excited about running the RB motor. I'm as excited about running that one as I am about running the L series. I know that the RB motor, is a better motor. It's 4-valve and it makes more power. And even though it's smaller than the 2.8, it's going to make more power. Now, it's not going to it probably won't make the torque that the bigger one will down low. That'll be interesting to see. But I'm just as excited about running both of those. For one, they're both factory turbo motors, and I've never run them, so they will be exciting. And I have lots of testing that I want to do, because it's frustrating for me, but whenever I go and search stuff, like I want to go search like 2.2 turbo data. There's a lot of 2.2 turbo data. But it's not done the way that I want. It's like, oh, well, if you want, this, a couple of horsepower, whatever, put this air intake on and turn the boost up. And, they're telling, which is good, tell all the guys what kinds of mods you want to use. But it doesn't have the information like the way that I want it presented. It doesn't say, look, when we ran 7 pounds, it did this, and 8 pounds and 9 pounds and 10 pounds and all the way up to 20 pounds or whatever. And then we put the intercooler on. And the airfield and the timing were exactly the same. It did this, and the charge temperature before the intercooler was this, and after the intercooler was this, and it made this much power. And then we added E85, and it did this, and this is how much power is worth. And then we added more timing. It did this. I want to know all of these things, like individually, step by step. Not necessarily because it's more so that the average guy, not so that we're going to do all of those things at once, or it's more for the guy that might want to do one of those. Okay, what should I do? Well, you should. On a non-intercooled 2.2 Dodge turbo motor, you should put an intercooler on it. You should put bigger injectors on it. You should put E85 on it. You should turn the boost up. And then when you run out of turbo, you should put more turbo on it. But one of the key things, especially for that particular application, is that you should do the tuning correctly. You should not just rely on, I'm going to, just turn the boost up and see what happens. Okay, you don't know what the air fuel is. You don't know what the timing is. I'm just going to do it. Oh, I blew a head gasket. Yeah, you did. And you didn't do that because those motors are bad or inherently weak. You did it because you don't know what the air fuel and timing is. On any boosted motor, you need to know what that is. And you need to know how much it wants, how much you can get away with, how much you really should be running. You need to know all those things. And you need to be able to provide it with that. So in a lot of these factory ECU things, unless you have programming like you have for SCT or HP tuners, those kinds of things, unless you have that or you have a standalone management system, you can't give it that with any sort of certainty, especially if you don't have an air fuel meter hooked up or something logging the timing to know exactly what that is. You need to know that. And on a turbo, especially something where you're turning the boost up, that's a critical thing. It has to have it can't have too much timing. And it needs to have enough fuel on no matter what the motor is, whether it's that Dodge or the L28 or an RB or an LS or whatever, it doesn't matter. Just curious if you know what the compression ratio was for an LS6 with 706 heads. Scott, go to Wallace Racing Compression Calculator. Do a search for that, Wallace Racing Compression Calculator. Plug in all your information, and voila, you'll see what it is. You can also go to Summit Racing, has on all cylinders. They have all of this data on all of the LS motors. take your LY6, it'll tell you that it's whatever compression is. I want to say that's like 9.2 or something like that. Whatever the factory compression is, 706 heads compared to an LY6 head are going to change it almost 10 cc's. So it's going to be a full point or more higher with that 706 head than it will be with a factory. It's going to be an 823 head, I think, on that LY6. People are searching for power ideas for the RBs. The RBs are fairly simple. Obviously, just like with the 2.2 and the L28, you want to have a good intercooler on it. You're going to upgrade the turbo. You can turn the boost up, put E85 in it. You're going to need injectors, have the timing be correct. Then you're going to want to do, you know, like everything else, ported heads, cams, all that stuff, head studs. Give or take a little depending on the heads, trying to keep up with the two JZs. Crossbreeding Ford Fairmonts with the Chrysler 2.2s. Chris, you have a 71 Mustang Grand. I know what that looks like. That's definitely a unique Mustang. And if it's got a Cleveland in it, personally, I think it would be cool to leave the Cleveland in it because you can make a lot of power with a Cleveland. And when you pop the hood and it has an LS, they're going to go, oh, yeah, that's cool. It has an LS swap. But if it has a Cleveland in it, I think a lot more people are going to like that. But ultimately, it comes down to what you like, so you get to pick that. Liv needs to know how to turbo a 6-liter for the Tempest. I told Liv, I already reached out to Liv. I told her I would help her in any way that she wants it. If she has any questions, you know, making power with a turbo LS obviously is going to be fairly easy. Gabriel, if you had a GT45, a sloppy stage 2, a 5.3, and a 6.0, which engine would you pick for the turbo? I blew my 6-liter and feel like that GT45 would be better on a 5.3, but have both burnouts and ice cream. If you're just doing burnouts, then I would do a 6-liter because if you're actually taking it to the track, the 5.3 probably would be a better match for the GT45. Although I don't think that that's a great cam for a 5.3 unless you just want the cammy sound. There would be lots better cam choices for that would make the turbo a lot more responsive, and you don't need that much cam to top out that turbo. Any of the smaller cams would do it, and they would drive better. So that part of it is up to you. That camshaft will get everything out of that GT45. It's just not going to idle and drive as nice and have as good a response as the other one. In a 6-liter, it will work better. It will be more responsive. Marty, it just takes time. Just do one simple change at a time when you're dealing with fuel injection. The guys are talking about the CHI heads. Those work really well. A Cleveland in that car is probably gonna. A 71. A 71 could still be a closed chamber head, depending on which one it was. If it's a base 2-barrel one, then it's going to be a 2V head. Gabriel, and you don't need very much converter for a 6-liter with that camshaft. You need obviously less converter than you do with less stall speed on a 6-liter than you do with a 5.3. One more minute. Minutes. I'm out of here. It's already late. So who's going to get the last question? Sprint turbo video. That's another one that I want to do. No, it's the chat's not short. We've been here more than an hour. Been here an hour and 3 minutes. Hour and 4 minutes. Oh yeah, for you. I do want to do the Sprint turbo motor, but that's going to take some doing because I've got to figure out a way to adapt that to some kind of bell housing. Go right to the 351 Cleveland M mode video, cam and intake swap. Yeah, and if it has 2V heads on it, I still want to do that test. And that will be my last comment for tonight. On the Cleveland, I want to do a 2V versus a 4V because with stock heads, because I have books here that say this, that oh yeah, you got to run the small 2V heads, especially for a street motor, because they're going to lose, the 4V heads are going to lose so much power. And after running the Boss 302 and the Boss 351, I don't see how that's going to be the case. And I know that when Power Auto Media or one of the other guys, I don't think it was them, I think it was Power Nation or one of these other guys, did a comparison, some kind of comparison between a 2V head and a 4V head, maybe on the same motor or something. And I thought that they were saying that the 2V made more power. And honestly, I can't see how that's going to happen, but I want to test it because maybe I'll come back to you and say, hey, look, that's exactly what does happen. But judging by the stuff that I've done already on them, I honestly don't see taking the combination that I had, either the Boss 302 or the 351, and I ran both a Boss 351 and a 351 M Code Cobra Jet motor, a 300 horsepower version with the flat tappet, the hydraulic cam in it. And I don't see putting a set of 2V heads on there and having it be better than the 4V combination. For one thing, the 2V heads compared to a 4V closed chamber head is going to lower the compression anyway. So right off the bat, it's going to be down and have to come up out of that. And I don't see, like I said, there's this myth that's been propagated about the 4V stuff, the Boss 302 certainly, and to a lesser extent the 351, the Boss 351, that Boss head, oh, those are terrible down low, they don't make any torque. Well, in a direct comparison to the really small Chevy Fuelie head on the 302, they didn't lose a bunch of low-speed torque. Now, in their defense, in the Chevy's defense rather, the Boss has a much smaller camshaft than the Chevy does. The Chevy was trying to have a bad head and a good camshaft, and Boss had a good head and a small camshaft, and so that's kind of why they were doing as well as they were doing. But the notion has always been, even given that those Bosses were terrible. Well, on the dyno, at least at wide open throttle, which is where you'd be if you were accelerating, the Boss didn't have terrible low speed power, even on the 302. On the 351, obviously, it's going to be even better. And it was on the Boss 351. And on that note, it's time for me to go. Thank you guys all for showing up. I'm going to be working on videos. Hopefully, go over and visit foreign automobiles, take some shots and stuff of the Nova, and do a video on the burnout. I'll see you tomorrow.